So hey GBA fans, it's Xilicks here, and welcome to week 12 of the weekly recap. We are not going to be joined by the Confusion this week as he is out of town at the time of me recording this, so it is just going to be me. Try and stick with me as I go through all of these matches. There is quite a lot to get through, but this is the final week of the regular season, and then next week we will have the playoffs. So I do want to let you guys know now, the way the playoffs is going to work for the weekly recap is the very first round of playoffs, we're just going to have the normal recap, but obviously with less matches to cover as there are less matches happening. But for the week after that, and then also in the finals, the Confusion and I are going to be doing a live analysis of those matches. So make sure to stay tuned to hear our reactions to how the matches go. But without any further ado, let's get into this 12th week of the recap. So for our first matchup, we have one that does not affect playoffs because both teams had either already made it or not made it. Made it in the case of the San Diego Chimchargers and Envy, who brought the roster of the Gligar, Empoleon, Tapu Koko, Kyurem, Hoopa U, and Alolan Raichu, while the Detroit Steelings are already knocked out of the playoffs, so this match did not have any relevancy to them, but we are still going to cover it anyways. They brought the team of Infernape, Donphan, Mega Beedrill, Thunder's Eye, Lycanroc Dusk, and Suicune. Starting off the battle, we are going to see the Donphan versus the Gligar. The Gligar is going to U-turn immediately into the Kyurem, taking a knockoff from the Donphan, and then getting hit by a big Stone Edge, followed up by an Ice Shard, which will take down that Kyurem. Envy is just going to switch in his Empoleon to scald the Donphan while taking an Earthquake, then setting up his Stealth Rocks on the following turn. We are going to see the Thundurus come up as the Stealth Rocks are set up, so Envy's just going to bring in his Tapu Koko, which can take the Thunderbolt very nicely because Thundurus does not get the boost from the electric terrain, and the Tapu Koko is able to resist that. Chase, however, is able to make a decent prediction, bringing in his Donphan as the Tapu Koko attempts to Volt Switch. However, he will only be able to get off some Ice Shard damage onto that Tapu Koko before he is knocked out by the Dazzling Gleam. The Infernape is going to come out as we see the Gligar be the switch into that, but the Infernape will U-turn to the Suicune and attempt to set up a substitute. Now, normally this would be a very good position for the Detroit Steelings. However, Envy is carrying the Roar on his Empoleon, and he will be able to roar that Suicune out into the Infernape, which will go for a Flare Blitz this time instead of a U-turn as the Gligar comes in, and that Gligar will just easily be able to roost off that damage, as we are going to see the Thundurus come and then the Hoopa come, but the Thundurus is going to set up a substitute, and since the Hoopa came in on the substitute turn, it is able to go for a Hyperspace Fury following that, knocking out the Thundurus right away. It is kind of cool to see that niche of the move getting used where it ignores the substitute, and it definitely did a lot to destroy. Speaking of Hyperspace Fury destroying, we are going to see the Lycanroc come out and then get doubled into the Beedrill, which will not be the correct play as Beedrill is going to get absolutely obliterated by that Hoopa. Then we are going to see the Lycanroc come back, but instead of getting that damage off on the Hoopa like he wanted, we are going to see the Gligar come in, taking the damage from the Lycanroc and then knocking that Lycanroc out with an Earthquake. We are going to see the Suicune come out, but this is basically the game. The Suicune's going to go down to Tapu Koko's Volt Switch, followed by the Alolan Raichu taking down the Infernape with a Psychic, giving Envy the 5-0 win. Moving in to our next matchup, we do have one that did actually affect who was going to playoffs and who wasn't. It is the Brushed Donphan versus the Bronx Beartics. Since the Beartics did not win this matchup, they are not going to the playoffs, so that is going to be the end of their season here. So let's get into the reason why they did not win. Looking at the teams first, the Brushed Donphan brought the Delphox, Tapu Fini, Kyurem Black, Mesprit, Gengar, and Lurantis, while the Bronx Beartics have the Licky, Necrozma, Zygarde 50%, Magnezone, Salazzle, and Heracross. Starting off the battle, we had the Delphox against the Licky. The Licky knocking off that Delphox's item right away, as both Mons are just choosing to go for wishes and a little bit of damage here and there. Ideally, what's going to happen is Lars would want to switch out on a turn where he doesn't take a knockoff, but that is exactly what we are going to see. Eventually, that Delphox is going to be swapped to the Lurantis, taking a knockoff. Then we are going to see the Licky swapped to the Heracross, not wanting to take a superpower. The Heracross, however, is able to take that superpower quite nicely and threaten that Lurantis out. We will see the Tapu Fini come in on a Mega Horn, not taking pretty much any damage from that. And then we are going to see the Necrozma come out as the Tapu Fini actually goes for the trick. And then the Necrozma is going to lock itself into the Stealth Rocks. and then get swapped to the Magnet Zone, as the Tapu Fini is just able to get rid of those rocks right away. Obviously not when you stay in on the Magnet Zone, it is going to be swapped for the Delphox, while the Magnet Zone is able to freely Volt Switch into the Zygarde. Now this Zygarde is going to be a threat. Pretty much the only switch-in that the Borussia Donphan have is that Lurantis, which can take 1,000 arrows decently well, but it doesn't want to take multiple, especially because it lost its leftovers. So we are going to see it take one and then be swapped into the Kyurem Black, which is also going to take 1,000 arrows, and then that Zygarde is going to be swapped to Necrozma, not wanting to take an Ice Beam. And then we are going to see the Tapu Fini come in again, able to defog those rocks away, as the Magnet Zone is once again brought out, Thunderbolting against the Kyurem. The Magnet Zone is then hard swapped into the Necrozma, as the Kyurem just Earth Powers, and then into the Fusion Bolt, the Necrozma is able to go down. However, this does give Joey the opportunity to get the revenge kill with the Salazzle, which he does do with the Overheat. We are going to see the Mesprit come out, and the Salazzle is just going to swap out to the Licky Licky, as the Mesprit is going to set up its Stealth Rocks. Then we are going to see both the Delphox and the Licky on the field once again, but this will not last as long as it did last time, because the Salazzle is going to be brought in, and the Salazzle is going to Encore the Delphox into the Wish, which is a pretty good situation, obviously, because this is going to force Lars out. He obviously just can't continue sitting there wishing. I mean, it really could if you wanted to, but that is not the best position to be in. So he's going to swap into his Gengar, and that Gengar is going to go down to the combination of Flamethrower and Sludge Wave. The Tapu Fini is going to come out though, and we are going to see the Magnet Zone come in once again, going for a Thunderbolt onto the Delphox, but the Delphox is able to take the Thunderbolt pretty nicely and go for a Mystical Fire, which will knock out the Magnet Zone. Then we're going to see the Lurantis come out against the Zygarde, taking the 1,000 arrows, and it is able to take another one, allowing it to go for a Synthesis and then a Leaf Storm and on the oncoming Heracross. But the Heracross is able to pretty well threaten this thing out, and into that Tapu Fini it goes once again. Tapu Fini is just going to Moonblast against the Licky Licky, which is not going to do much. The Licky Licky is just able to sit there and continue going for Wish Protect. The Lurantis is going to attempt to set up, but that Salazzle is going to come out, and then we are going to see the Mesprit on the side for Lars, taking a Sludge Wave, but not very well. It is going to go down to the second one, but this does give the opportunity for the Delphox to come out and knock out that Salazzle. At this point, the timer is getting very, very low. The Zygarde is going to come out to pick off the Lurantis, but the Tapu Fini is going to be able to survive Zygarde's extreme speed and take out the Zygarde with the Moonblast. And at this point, once the Heracross goes down, there isn't much left for Joey until the timer runs out, giving Lars that 2-0 victory. Moving on to a much faster paced battle compared to the last one, we have the Montreal Habsols versus the Florida Gators. A bit of an upset for what most people would have guessed in the pick'ems, but looking at the rosters, we have the Fortress, Mudsdale, Barbaracle, Scolipede, Megalopony, and Zapdos on the Habsol side, while the Florida Gators brought their Mega Altaria, Klefki, Flygon, Mamoswine, Buzzwole, and Crobat. Starting off, we are going to see the Altaria versus the Fortress. The Altaria is going to Mega right away and go for a Flamethrower. Obviously, the Fortress will survive that with a Sturdy, getting up its Stealth Rocks, and then exploding on the next turn, doing a big chunk to the Altaria and taking itself out. The Lopunny is going to come out, and the Altaria is going to swap to Buzzwole, which the Buzzwole is a pretty good defensive switch-in to this Lopunny. And then the Lopunny is going to be swapped for the Zapdos, as the Buzzwole just goes for a Roost. We are going to see the Mamoswine come out, but Aster is going to U-turn into his Barbaracle, and then the Barbaracle is going to go for a Shell Smash, and then it's going to Aerial Ace the Buzzwole. It's going to liquidate the Klefki, knocking that out as well. It's going to liquidate the Mamoswine, also knocking that out, and then it's finally going to go down to Crobat's Brave Bird. So that Barbaracle was able to put in a lot of work, getting 3 kills right there, and just putting a huge dent in Gator's team. It kind of sealed the deal pretty early on, but obviously the battle will continue for a few more turns. The Zapdos is going to come out and get taunted. The Crobat is going to Toxic the Zapdos, but the Zapdos is just going to U-turn into the Scolipede. The Scolipede is then going to swap back to the Zapdos as the Crobat Brave Birds. The Crobat's going to try to taunt to try to prevent the Zapdos from roosting, but the Zapdos is just going to Thunderbolt, taking out that Crobat. Flygon is then going to come out in Dragon Dance, as the Zapdos is going to U-turn to the Mudsdale. The Flygon is going to Z Tectonic Rage. It does quite a lot of damage to the Mudsdale, but the Mudsdale is able to roar the Flygon out into the Altaria, and losing that Dragon Dance boost is going to pretty much seal the deal if it wasn't already sealed. The Mudsdale is going to Heavy Slam against that Altaria, and it is going to get the KO on the Altaria with the second one. Flygon is going to come back as we see the Zapdos come back. The Flygon is going to get another Dragon Dance, but the Flygon actually did get paralyzed from the static hitting the Zapdos earlier on. And then the Zapdos is just going to U-turn into the Mudsdale. The Mudsdale will go down to Flygon's Outrage. However, the Scolipede is able to come in and go for the Z Hydro Vortex, giving Aster the nice 3-0 win. Moving on to our next battle, we have yet another fast-paced one. It is going to be Pokemon versus Necrostevo. This battle did not matter for playoffs as Pokemon was already secured to make it, and Necrostevo was already out of the running. But we are going to be covering it anyways regardless. So the Pelipers have the roster of Piloswine, Tentacruel, Cresselia, Hariyama, Escavalier, and Garchomp, while the Shadows have the Rotom Heat, Mega Alakazam, Stoutland, Tyranitar, Metagross, and Togekiss. So starting off the battle, we are going to see the Togekiss against the Garchomp. The Garchomp is going to immediately swap into the Tentacruel, not wanting to take a Dazzling Gleam, and then we are going to see a repeat of the last time as the Tyranitar is brought into that Tentacruel. The Tentacruel is going to get up a layer of Toxic Spikes, and the last time these two battled, the Toxic Spikes were very detrimental to Necrostevo and his entire team. We are going to see the Hariyama come out and take Tyranitar's Crunch very nicely, and then the Hariyama is going to go for a Facade, not doing barely any damage to the incoming Metagross, and the Metagross will be able to knock out that Hariyama with a Meteor Mash. Then we are going to see the Escavalier come out as the Metagross is going to swap to Rotom Heat, while the Rotom Heat is just going to get knocked off by the Escavalier. Then we are going to see the Tentacruel come out as the Rotom just goes for a Will-O-Wisp, and then the Stoutland is going to be brought out against Tentacruel's Scald. Tentacruel is then going to swap to the Piloswine and Stoutland Facades into another Facade, which is going to knock out that Piloswine. The Tentacruel is going to come back as the Stoutland is going to swap to Metagross, also taking Scald from the Tentacruel. And then we're going to see the Garchomp come back against the Tyranitar. Now, Pokemon figured there might be an Ice move here, but since he knew he was faster, he figured, why not get Stealth Rocks up. He is going to get Stealth Rocks up. We are going to see an Ice Fang from the Tyranitar, and that Garchomp is going to live with 1 HP, which is going to allow him to go for an Earthquake on the following turn, and that's going to catch the incoming Metagross. This will give the Alakazam the opportunity to come out and go for a Shadow Ball, picking off the Garchomp. However, the Escavalier is going to come out, take a Focus Blast very nicely, and go for a Pursuit, which will put the Alakazam in range of Poison. We are going to see the Rotom Heat come back to defog away those rocks, but this is going to bring in the Cresselia, and the Cresselia is going to get up a Calm Mind, and at +1, the Cresselia is able to knock out the Tyranitar with the Hidden Power Fire. It is able to take an Air Slash from the Togekiss and knock that out with a Psychic, and it is going to be able to clean up the rest of the game with Psychic, giving Pokemon the 3-0 victory. Moving on to our next matchup, we have Jolt versus Cybertron. Now again, this one does not matter for playoffs as Jolt was already in and Cybertron was already out. But let's take a look at what happened anyway. So Jolt has the roster of the Mega Venusaur, Celesteela, Gardevoir, Hydreigon, Breloom, and the Seismitoad, while the Melbourne Rotoms have the Ludicolo, Mega Swampert, Pelipper, Kingdra, Mimikyu, and Kartana. Starting off the battle, we are going to see the Breloom versus the Mimikyu. Obviously not a very good position for the Breloom to be in, and the Celesteela is going to be brought out against the Playrough. This is going to bring in the Pelipper as the Celesteela just goes for an Air Slash, and then another Air Slash as the Kingdra is brought in. Not wanting to 1v1 the Kingdra, the Seismitoad is going to come out and eat that Surf very nicely, obviously being immune to it, but the Draco Meteor is going to come off doing quite a lot of damage to that Seismitoad as it goes for these Stealth Rocks. Then the Ludicolo is going to come into Sponge and Earth Power very nicely and go for a Hydro Pump against the Hydreigon, not doing much damage. However, he will be able to do a bit more damage on the following turn with an Ice Beam as the Hydreigon is just going to U-turn into the Venusaur. The Venusaur, however, will be able to tank the Ice Beam from the Ludicolo and knock out that Ludicolo with a Sludge Bomb. This is going to bring the Pelipper back out as the rain finished that turn, and we are going to see the Seismitoad come out and take a Hurricane. The Seismitoad is going to attempt to Hidden Power Electric, but it will go off against the Swampert, which will obviously be blocked, and then the Swampert is just going to Mega Evolve and set up the Stealth Rocks, knocking out the Seismitoad on the following turn. We are going to see the Gardevoir come out and trace that Swift Swim, getting that extra speed boost, which is pretty cool. Going for the Energy Ball, breaking the Mimikyu's Disguise. However, not wanting to 1v1 that Mimikyu, once again, we are going to see the Celesteela come out, which is going to take quite a lot of damage from Mimikyu's Shadow Claw. However, the Celesteela will be able to set up the Leech Seed. and with that extra recovery, the Mimikyu most likely will not be able to knock out the Celesteela. So the Celesteela is just going to go for a Heavy Slam on the following turn, and Cybertron is going to preserve his Mimikyu going out into the Swampert. But this Celesteela is carrying the Giga Drain, which will be able to destroy that Swampert very quickly. This is going to bring the Pelipper back out to Scald as Celesteela just air slashes, and then this will result in the Celesteela going down to the following Scald on the next turn. The Breloom is going to come out and pick off the Pelipper with the Bullet Seed, and then it's going to be able to Mach Punch the Kingdra, taking that out as well. The Mimikyu will come in to revenge with the Play Rough, and then we will see the Hydreigon come out to counter revenge, and then we will see the Kartana come out to counter revenge the Hydreigon. Now at this point, Jolt's play is to go into his Venusaur, hope that there isn't a crit, hope he survives the Smart Strike from the Kartana, which he is able to do, and he is able to knock out that Kartana with the Hidden Power, giving him the 2-0 victory. Had the Venusaur gone down, whether there be a crit or whatever it may be, then Cybertron would have won. So Jolt obviously made the correct play by not allowing his Gardevoir to go down to give the Kartana the extra Beast Boost. Next up, we do have a match that is crucial to playoffs that we spoke about earlier. However, as you can see, since Geo got the 6-0 win over the Columbus Chew, that is going to secure him the playoff position over the Bronx Beartics. So let's see how he got this 6-0. Now, this was an incredibly long battle, so I have cut it pretty short just to give you guys the gist. So let's look at each team's roster. The Giantes have the Mew, Mega Scizor, Shaman, Blacephalon, Toxapex, and Ditto, while the Columbus Chew have the Manaphy, Hippowdon, Porygon 2, Celebi, Blaziken, and Weezing. Really, starting off this battle, Geo is going to get up his 1 layer of Toxic Spikes. Now, he chose to go for 1 layer instead of 2 because he wanted the residual 12% every turn instead of the buildup of damage, which actually does work out very well for him. There were a couple times where having the Toxic instead of just the regular Poison would have been more beneficial, but I think he did make the better call in the end by only getting 1 layer of Toxic, or 1 layer of Toxic Spikes, because this is going to help with wearing down that Porygon, the Hippowdon, the Manaphy, and the Celebi. Meanwhile, Coach Z is going to be attempting to gain momentum however he can, but he's taking a lot of damage early on. He loses his Blaziken relatively early on to the Mew, and then Geo is going to have defensive pivots to basically everything to just sit on the field while that Poison is wearing away at the HP of the Chew's team. Geo played this game very safely, securing kills with his Shaman and his Ditto. Coach Z did try to pull some shenanigans with a very interesting Curse Porygon 2 Last Resort set, but that was quickly shut down by the Haze on the Toxapex, and that was pretty much the entire game. It was a very long game, and obviously a lot of turns were skipped, but this battle was very repetitive, and honestly, Geo played exactly how he needed to secure his position ahead of Joey and the Bronx Beartics in the playoffs. So congratulations to him for moving on, giving that big 6-0 win. For our next battle, we have yet another very long one. It is going to be the Philadelphia Scizors versus the Milwaukee Bewares. The Scizors have the roster of the Tapu Bulu, Nihilego, Greninja, Slurpuff, Scrafty, and Mega Camerupt, while the Bewares have the Jellicent, Forgus, Entei, Xurkitree, Alolan Muck, and Tangrowth. The start of this battle is Chimp desperately trying to kill the Forgus with his Mega Camerupt, which isn't going to work out for him as Forgus is just going to be continually wishing and defogging away the Stealth Rocks he attempts to set up. Eventually, both sides are going to swap out, and we're going to see Chimp playing pretty aggressively with his Camerupt right away, using it to set up hazards and threaten out a lot of bulky or offensive mons on Wolfie's team. Wolfie, on the other hand, he will be able to burn some of Chimp's physically offensive mons and waste the Z move coming out from the Nihilego. Both sides end up pivoting around a lot, but Chimp is going to be able to heal Bell off those burns and set up the sticky webs, hopefully to force a defog from the Forgus. And Chimp does continue bringing in his Camerupt to force switches, and he's making very aggressive doubles to capitalize, which is allowing for him to either weaken down defensive mons or keep up momentum due to the defensive nature of Wolfie's team. It is going to take a lot of thoughtful playing to wear down a lot of these defensive threats, especially with Chimp setting up the grassy terrain. However, Chimp has been knocking off items to hopefully allow for a more successful endgame, and this is eventually going to lead into a huge killing spree back to back on both sides. So it's going to start with Tangrowth taking down the Slurpuff, followed by the Nihilego taking down the Jellicent. Wolfie then revenges the Nihilego with his Alolan Muck after taking a huge amount of damage from that Nihilego though. Wolfie then decides to sack his Tangrowth to the Tapu Bulu. Then we are going to see the Xurkitree come out and miss a Hypnosis, allowing the Tapu Bulu to do devastating damage to that Xurkitree. Not enough to take it out, but he will be able to take out the Forgus on the following turn. Chimp then opts to get up some very late rocks with his Camerupt, which will result in the Camerupt going down to the Entei, but it will secure him the game with his Greninja. I know a lot happened, but that's basically how the battle went. Started off very slow and then very rapid fire towards the end, and we are going to see that Greninja pick up every kill at the end except for the Alolan Muck because the Bewares did forfeit, but I believe as far as the score is concerned, the Bewares get a -3 and the Scizors get a +3 regardless of the forfeit. And for the final match this week, we do have the Tampa Bay Luxrays versus the San Jose Sharpedos. Now, to my knowledge, this battle has not been uploaded. I haven't seen it yet. It may have been uploaded by the time that this was recorded and up, but at the time of me recording this, it hasn't been uploaded yet. So I do have the score on screen now. So take it as you will. This is what they posted. If you want to see the battle, maybe they'll upload it soon, or maybe it's already been uploaded and you've already seen it. But either way, this is the score. I have not seen the battle, so obviously I can't recap it, but that is going to be all I can really say about that for now. Alright, and with that, we are going to have all of the battles for the main season done and out of the way. So let's take a look at the final conference breakdown. Now, I believe there was a little bit of confusion last time. I think people were thinking that the conference breakdown is the standings, which this is the standings, but they are categorized by each division. So those in the Melee and Akala at the bottom, they're not eliminated. They're not beneath the teams above them. It's just each division has its own portion. So in Ula Ula, we have the San Diego Chimchargers and the San Francisco Giants moving on to the playoffs, while the Detroit Steel Wings and Columbus Chew obviously are not. While in the Pony division, we have the Kansas City Draw Chiefs and the Brusha Donphan moving on. Then looking at Melee, we actually have the Philadelphia Scissors moving ahead of the Gators since they got a win this week while the Gators got a loss. Both of those teams, however, are moving on to playoffs. And then looking at Akala, we have the New Orleans Pelipers and the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Both of those teams are also going to be moving on to the playoffs. All the rest of the teams, most of them had a pretty good season, and yeah, hopefully we get to see a lot of these teams in the next season. And I want you guys to tell me right now in the comments, who do you think is going to go all the way and win that championship? Now's the time to make predictions, and I want to hear yours. And even if you don't think a team is going to win, let me know who you want to win. Either way, support whoever you want down in the comments below. Alright, and for the part that I'm sure a lot of you were waiting for, this is finally the time where we get to see the end of the league leaders, at least for the main season. I'm pretty sure this is basically where it stops at week 12, because obviously, you know, with only half the teams moving on to playoffs and then that number getting cut in half each week, this is going to be the last chance for the coaches not making playoffs to get kills. So this is our final league leaders. We have the Nihilego still reigning at number 1 with 21 kills and 7 deaths, giving it that plus 14 differential, while the Mega Lopunny made quite a big climb throughout the season. We did not see the Lopunny on the list at all for the first couple weeks, but now it is here with 17 kills, making a very big presence on the kill leader towards the very end. The Thunder's Eye still holding on to that number 3 spot. It has been here for a long time. Despite being on a team with a lot of losses, it has been able to pick up kills consistently almost every single week it was brought. So I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that we are still seeing it up on the board. Moving on to the 4 to 10 position, we are going to see that Mega Pinsir holding on, wasn't able to make it to the top 3, but it is obviously still going to be towards the top of the kill leaders with 13 and 2. Then we are going to see that Breloom climbing up a little bit from last week, putting it into the number 5 position, which as far as I'm concerned, my bold prediction is now true because of this. So thank you, Jolt, for validating my bold prediction. Moving on, we are going to have the Altaria there with 12 kills, and this starts a bit of a trend for the rest of the dragons on this list, with Zygarde and Haxorus also having 12 kills. We have seen a lot of dragons moving in and out of this list, and it's no surprise that we're seeing at least 3 here now. Then moving on, we are going to have Cobalion, which has been holding on to this list, obviously dropped down a little bit from where it was. I believe it got as high as either 5 or 6 at one point. It is going to be knocked down to number 9, but hanging on to the top 10, and then barely making it in right at the end there, we have the Mimikyu, which was brought almost every week. I think there may have been a couple weeks where it wasn't brought, but it definitely got a lot of kills, just barely making it in to the end of the kill leader at the end of the season. So congratulations to all of the coaches who have made it this far. And with that, I'm sure you guys are very tired of hearing me go on and on and on. It's definitely better for these episodes to have 2 different people to kind of break up the monotony, but hopefully you guys could enjoy this the same. If you guys are excited for playoffs, again, let me know who you want to win. Make sure to support all of the coaches, regardless of how well they did this season. I will see you guys in the next week. Okay, thanks, bye.